All right, guys, welcome to our Lunch and Learn. Today, we wanted to kind of kick off our first Lunch and Learn of the year, talking about leaky gut and Candida. And the reason is that the majority of Americans are dealing with gut health imbalances. I wanted to kind of kick it off with just some information about the gut health industry and kind of where research is going and everything like that. I did some research over the industry stats, and just in general, the supplements industry has tripled in size in the last 10 years, which is crazy. But in the last 10 years, it has gone from a $23 billion industry to a $61 billion industry in 2017. So for us, I mean, we're selling supplements. Obviously, that is a really good indicator of the fact that people are embracing and seeing the need for supplementation, like we talked about in our previous call. Now, the probiotics market in general is projected to actually exceed $64 billion in 2023. It is growing at lightning speed. I mean, just a couple years ago, probiotics were not, very much talked about. And now, if you guys look it up, I mean, it's what everybody is talking about. It's what the natural foods industry is talking about. It's what doctors are talking about. There's plenty and plenty of research, primarily done over in Europe right now, surrounding gut health and everything. And it's because of the way that our food system and our food supply has kind of gone. So it's spurring lots and lots of food researchers, and it has really started driving the functional food market as well. So you're starting to see a lot more the gut health focused foods as opposed to heart health and foods that are good for bone health and that kind of thing, which used to kind of be taking over the functional foods market. So what I love about this too is it's also driving a change in medical research. So what I wanted to do is kick it over to Cameron so that she can talk to us a little bit about Candida and leaky gut and what all of this is about. And then I'll kind of show you guys a little bit about at the end how this applies to all of us. So take it away, Cameron.
Happy Thursday, guys. I hope everybody's coming back into the real world after a fantastic holiday season. I'm working on it, but there's nothing better to really dive into what we do, and that is gut health. When I first started about 2.5 years ago, gut health was just kind of starting to get out there, and it was still voodoo. Probiotics was still voodoo, black magic science. And what's awesome now is that probiotics are really becoming like omegas or vitamins. They're not scary anymore. It's not a bad word. People are more accepting of it, more open of it. There's research and articles everywhere from Fox News to Eat Entertainment Tonight and Outdoor Magazine. Everybody's talking about gut health. And it's one of my very favorite topics. I don't get the nickname of Poop Queen for any reason other than the fact that I absolutely love gut health. So I want to start, let me share my screen. Here, and then get a couple of slides going. Let's see here. There we go. I'm getting so good at technology recently. It's so great. So what is leaky gut? Let's start a little bit with what is the gut? We don't really realize that our gut starts in our mouth, with our mouth and teeth. Our teeth are part of our digestive system. They break down food, and the enzymes in our mouth start breaking it down even further, and things start absorbing into our bloodstreams right in our mouth. So think about it. As you eat candy, you get that quick pop of, like if you put a hard candy in your mouth, you get that quick burst of energy. It's because immediately that sugar is going into your bloodstream, right into your brain. And as you eat the food, it goes down to the esophagus and into our stomach. And in our stomach, it is broken down further and goes through our small intestines and our colon. And then we have some support system like our gallbladder, our pancreas, our liver that are just further helping with storage of minerals and vitamins, breaking down bile, secretion, things like that. So, when you take a look at this, you see why the gut is such a big thing. It covers most of our body from our mouth down to our beloved poop hole, as we call it sometimes. So it is a very important thing to protect because it's a huge part of our body and it's essential to life. Food is fuel. And our body is working on getting things through our digestive process to get fuel for energy, for growth, for our heartbeat, for our brain function, everything. So our digestive system is a very, very, very important thing. I want to start with just a couple of facts that we have here. The gut is the only organ that can perform functions without the oversight of our brain. Our heart is beating because our brain is sending a message constantly, beat, beat, beat. Same thing with breathing. It's just a constant message there. Our gut digestive system, our guts are not being sent a message to do things. It is acting independently of the brain, which is the only organ in the body. There are over 100 million neurons or brain cells in your gut. Think about that. That is what is really crazy. And further weeks, we're going to talk a little bit about mental health and gut health as well. And you'll see how important and tied they are. Our gut sends emotional signals to the brain. It is said that we think we feel from our gut first and not our brain. I mean, think about it. Butterflies in our stomach, gut instincts. I'm nervous. Before this call, I was like, oh, my gut's just all fluttering. It's because we're sending signals. We're feeling from our gut instinct, our intuition, all from our gut. We see more and more the reason why we've got to protect it. It also holds between 70 to 80% of our immune system, and I'll go over that a little bit why in a minute. And it also produces about 90% of our serotonin, which is our feel-good hormone. And again, we'll talk more about that in the mental health, how really maybe all this depression and anxiety stuff has nothing to do with our brains. It really just has to do with our guts. And by healing our guts, wow, maybe we can heal our life. I'm going to exit really quickly out of this. I just wanted to get a slide here. All right, am I unsharing screen now? Okay, so our gut is, we'll specifically talk mostly about our small intestine, our colons. That's where most of the stuff happens. Our small intestines are where our vitamins and minerals are absorbed. This is where your body is uptaking magnesium and vitamin A and vitamin C and things like that. Things that our body needs us to, as we learned in the supplementation, to grow our hair, to help us sleep, release melatonin, all the stuff. That's where our small intestines are absorbing those nutrients and sending them where they need to be as building blocks in our body. And our small intestines are semi-permeable, meaning things can sort of flow in and out, but it's definitely a barrier. I like to think of our gut lining that it looks like a microfiber cloth right here. These little brushes right here are called villi. These are our gut brushes. I like to think of them as ninjas because they really ward off and defend things. And since our small intestines do have where the nutrient absorption happens, you want a lot of surface area. These villi right here is where most of our nutrition is absorbed into the villi. And when people have like celiac or gluten disease, these things are mashed down or gone. You can lose your villi, and that's when people have problems. So it looks more like this. Look how less surface area that is, right? So when you don't have your villi, you're not absorbing as much stuff. So you really do want to defend and protect the villi. And the good news is our body's incredible. And with healing and health, they can grow these back. So I like to think about it imagine what a couple of these were here getting inflamed, whether it's from an irritation of processed food or stress, or there's some sort of medication or some sort of harmful chemical in our food, or maybe it's something you absorb from a lotion that has toxic chemicals. You just never know. But imagine a couple of these getting really inflamed. So what would that cause? If you have, your gut lining and some of them comes inflamed, well, you've got yourself a hole right there. Leaky gut is essentially a hole in your gut lining. And so what used to be semi-permeable and have a barrier from protecting against things that are going to get into our bloodstream, it's permeable. So things can get into our bloodstream. So that's really what leaky gut is. It's allowing for food, for medication, all kinds of different things to get into the bloodstream. And when it gets into your bloodstream, that's our information highway kind of going through. That's where things are being carried to different places. Your body's like, what is this? I don't know what this food particle is. It attacks it. And that's where we see a lot of autoimmune, which we'll talk about in a few weeks. But basically, leaky gut is allowing things into your bloodstream that your body's like, I don't know what this is. And it starts attacking it, causing different sorts of inflammation in the body. And what can we do about it? Well, probiotics are a huge thing. I like to think of probiotics like birdseed. You see all these different, when you buy birdseed, you don't just get one. You get all different kinds. And that's why I love, we have Vital Biome as well as ProBio 5, is we're putting a lot of different seeds in our garden. We are an ecosystem. Our microbiome is an ecosystem. And we're putting a lot of different seeds onto, what I love about the Plexus Vital Biome is they're designed to actually hook into our gut lining. So they'll actually hook on and stay on. And where's our immune system coming from? Well, as viruses pass through our body, they won't be colonized because the probiotics help, the protein on the layers of the probiotics help from viruses to stick or bacteria and things like that. It cleans it out because we want our gut system to be very, very clean. And that's what's awesome about Plexus. It's not just about seeds. I mean, think about this as a garden. I want you to imagine all kinds of rocks and hair and roaches, whatever you do to clean the floor, that's in our gut lining. So our ProBio 5, we got to pull the weeds out. And we very much of us have weeds. It's not just about, we just need to put some seeds in our gardens, fine. And that kind of goes to Candida. Candida is a very hot topic right now. People are recognizing more and more and more what it is. It's yeast. We are not allowed to post the word Candida because it's actually a medical diagnosis. We can say yeast overgrowth. But Candida, our body, we're all born with Candida. In fact, if you put a zucchini in the fridge and you walked away for a few weeks and went to find it, ask me how I know I had this happen this last week, and you pull it out and there's all that white stuff on it, that's yeast. Yeast is designed to decompose us. And it's an important process. We have it. We think of yeast with women think about it, a yeast infection is an overgrowth of yeast. And we all know as a woman how horrible that is. Imagine that colonizing in your gut system. That is what is happening with processed foods, with stress, lack of sleep, alcohol, synthetic chemicals. All the different things are causing our bodies to have leaky gut, as well as Candida, which feeds on sugar. Candida loves sugar and carbs. And since our whole diet is full of those now, we're getting it to colonize. It is growing up through our digestive tract, causing all different types of symptoms. Sarah's going to go over in just a little bit about common symptoms and what it can cause and die off and things like that. But Candida is a very, very powerful thing. And that's what our ProBio 5 is specifically designed to do. It has an enzyme which breaks down. Candida has a very hard exoskeleton, and you have to get rid of that exoskeleton, break it open to get an antifungal, because it's a fungus, to get rid of it. So our ProBio 5 has the enzyme needed to break it down, as well as grapeseed extract, which is the antifungal. So it's great. And then our magnesium, which we talked a little bit about on our supplementation call, is really important for toxin removal. I think the probiotics help kind of scrub that toilet, and the magnesium flushes it out. So it's just more about, we don't want toxins to get reabsorbed. We want them out. So BioCleanse is not just about pooping. When we hear about cleanse, magnesium pulls toxins out of your system and gets them out. And Candida is very powerful. It can cause all different types of things. Like for me, I had asthma caused by Candida, and we see it for people that have maybe gone through a really big bout of antibiotics. When you get antibiotics, your doctor will talk to you about, oh, you might get a yeast infection. Well, it's because now all the good stuff fighting the bad stuff is low, and the bad things can overgrow. So oftentimes, when women get prescribed antibiotics, they also get like an antifungal, a difalcan. Well, that's what's happening. If you go get that, it's growing in our systems. It's growing in our digestive tracts, all different types of things. I recommend with Candida, if you'll Google Shamu SeaWorld Candida, there was a whale in the last few years that died of Candida overgrowth. This is a really serious thing. I remember when I was going through die-off, and I would go to my upline, like, this is happening, and she'd be like, oh, that's Candida, and I'd Google and be like, this is weird. This doesn't even seem right. I thought she was just bonkers, because it just didn't make sense. All the symptoms that I was having very much aligned with Candida die-off. And it's causing all different types of illnesses, from brain fog to asthma to sugar cravings to acne. Sarah will go over that a little bit more later, but it's a very serious matter, Candida, and that's really what sets Plexus apart. Not just the weed, seed, feed, and protect system. We're not just seeding things. That's what probiotics are. We're not just seeding. We're doing it all. We want to weed. We want to put the seeds in there. We want to feed it with our prebiotics. And once we get that well, we want to protect it. And that's what's great about the system. And I want to wrap up with 2 extra slides just to get some visuals on the powerfulness of Candida here. And share screen. There we go. So here's another visual of leaky gut. We had the microfiber. If you take a look here, we have these junctions, and when they break, you'll see different things that are getting into the bloodstream. It's causing food sensitivity, allergies. A lot of people are like, oh, I developed this allergy later in life. Oftentimes it's because it's a gut thing. You weren't born with it, something has triggered. You have less nutrient absorption, more food sensitivities, you have more inflammation in the body. But this slide, if it's available, if you guys want it, but it's a really good visual of how our gut is semi-permeable, but when junctions break and inflammation happens, you're basically leading a hole right into your bloodstream, causing all different types of things. And I want to share this scary slide on Candida. On the top left corner, these are yeast cells. We have them in our body, and that's normal. And so what happens is when you go through a bout of stress or something triggers in your body, some hormones, antibiotics, they start colonizing, they start collecting together. And what's really creepy, you can see on the bottom, it colonizes into different tissues. And it's a very selfish fungus. It will pull all the nutrients and it can grow. And eventually you'll see in that top middle, that little arm thing is called the hyphae. And it is what it does is it grows an arm basically, and it's looking out for nutrients. Or it can go on the other side. You'll see on the right side, the hyphae on the bottom part, it can go into your gut lining and get into your bloodstream, letting off chemicals. It can attach to our immune cells. It can affect different things. See, we have our T cells. So that hyphae, as the Candida gets out of control, it will grow arms to go along your gut lining and find ways to get in and colonize in your bloodstream. So it's a very powerful organism. More and more stuff is coming out of it. It is, you'll never, when you go through Candida die-off, you'll never get rid of yeast completely. You need it. It's what's going to decompose as it does different things, but what you need to do is manage it and keep it low. And as yeast is feeding on sugar and carbohydrates and starches, and more stress happens, it will just colonize, and all kinds of things happen. And I hope these graphics, I know they're a little overwhelming, but it's just showing, the process of this all, and that it's okay to have yeast cells, but if there's some sort of antagonism of the gut flora, boom, it's growing an arm basically and trying to get into that leaky gut. So this is really where Plexus has the edge, is on dealing with Candida, because most of us have some sort of Candida overgrowth. Like if I looked at all that chart, I would have said, no, I don't have it. I had it. It was very light, but I had it. And men get it too. It's not just women, but that's what really makes it different, is that we have the weed, seed, feed, and protect system, and that we also really deal with one of the biggest weeds that we see. I encourage you to Google Shamu and check out what's going on. I look up Candida and read about it and die-off and what it causes, because it's a very powerful thing. I hope this helps. Thanks so much, Sarah, for having me.
Thank you, Cameron. To me, this is just fascinating, and it kind of connects the dots for a lot of things that we all deal with. It's men, women, children. That's why I love that they added the probiotic to the kids' X Factor, because think about if we had all been super serious about, as children growing up through life, super serious about our gut health, where we would be at today versus where we're at now, right? So it's so important for this. I know when I started Plexus, I was dealing with depression. I was dealing with crazy sugar cravings. I was dealing with canker sores. Y'all, I had 100 canker sores in my mouth at one time, and it was a chronic issue that I was experiencing over years and years and years and years. And I was on prescription probiotics, everything for it, but they were not going away. I was plagued with thrush when I was breastfeeding my daughter, so much so that it ended up ultimately ruining our breastfeeding relationship. But I was on dose after dose after dose. I did 10 dosages in a row of I think it's called diflucan, in a row for the thrush. And you're only supposed to do one, but it would not go away. And, chronic headaches, chronic yeast infections. So as we're talking to our customers, those are all things that we want to look for. So one of the most important things that we can do is be a consultant to our customers. Ask them lots of questions. And so one of the things that I do, I'm going to share my screen now. One of the things that I do is I always focus on this chart. I'm trying to get out of them and out of the people that I'm talking to, what is happening, in their life. Are they having these mood swings? Are they having trouble sleeping? Are they, what are their eating habits like? Are they experiencing any of this? And I'll share this a whole lot. So that's something that we can get you guys as well. But, going over and asking pointed questions that lead them down this path to determine if they do, in fact, have a yeast overgrowth, if they do, in fact, have leaky gut or are dealing with any of those things. So that's one of the primary things that we can really, really, really help our customer base and our potential base with, is becoming a consultant and then educating them on what Cameron just said. So you don't have to be as well versed as Cameron is in understanding Candida and leaky gut. But what I do suggest you guys all do is to circle back into research yourself, because when you research something yourself, it sticks in your head a lot better, right? So that's what I did when I first started Plexus. I needed to understand why these testimonies were all coming out that were so, thyroid testimonies, autoimmune diseases, depression, anxiety. It all leads back to this. And so it's all back to this. And what we produce and what we have as a product line is so effective because that ProBio 5, that was our original probiotic, can actually kill this off. And that is the big thing. So with that being said, as we're talking, we determine, okay, these people need to start on triplex. We need to weed it out first. We want to get them slowly increasing their dosages of both BioCleanse and also ProBio 5. So we want to make sure that they are eliminating correctly. And as we do so, first elimination is very, very key. If they're constipated, we got to get them pooping first because they got to get that bad stuff out of there. But then we slowly increase those dosages to 4 BioCleanse a day and 4 ProBio 5 a night. Slowly, guys. Don't just jump off that into the deep end straight away with your customers, and walk them through die-off and detox. We're in one of these series. We're going to talk a little bit more about die-off and detox and how that works. We don't have time to do it today because we've already ran a little bit over on this, but I wanted to just kind of integrate that part of it as well. So you guys are their coaches. You guys are helping them get through this process and heal their gut, and you guys are the person that helps to educate them on the why. Like, why is this important? What's happening in their body? You can retain your customers and your ambassadors so much better through education just on this topic, you guys. So that's all we have for today. Thank you guys so much. Our next one, I'm going to be posting next week's trainings online, so be watching Team Taylor for that. But we want to thank you guys so much for hopping on with us. Bye.